Hey, the 6-bolt in Von Doom's lab. This is Hook of the Reaper, version 1.3.0, and Lead Hook Strip, version 0.1 releases. So yeah, I actually took a couple minutes out of my day and actually named the addressable LED controller. So I played around with it a little bit, but I thought Lead Hook kind of sounded really good. I liked that. Then I asked my friend. I was like, well, how's lead hook? Then I was like, well, I'm probably gonna do buttons one later on. So then I just put strip in there. Then he's like, well, if you're trying to put hookers and strippers in the name much as possible, you're doing a good job. And I'm like, that sounds great. Yes, yes, that's what I want. So that's kind of how lead hook strip came out, because it's using strips of LEDs. So then if I do arcade buttons, then it'll be lead hook buttons probably later on. So one thing is, sorry for the long wait. I know most people know or don't care. They know my health is not the greatest, but kind of what happens, like every month to 2 months, I crash out. Pretty much I sleep for anywhere between like 3 to 5 days. It is pretty much just sleep all through the days. So then it helps out to get, some of my energy back. So I was about 75% done with everything and trying to get it done before I crashed, but I just didn't make it. So that's why there was kind of like a week I wasn't around too much at all, because I just pretty much crashed out and I was sleeping. So because I'm sleeping all the time, I didn't see what was happening. But I think people know I'm probably, if I'm out, I'm probably not feeling the best. So, but before moving on, just want to do a quick correction for the person doing the network code on Supermodel. This is where I found out a person actually put in a pull request to put the network option into Supermodel before I did my 1 day coding kind of challenge. And I got that person's name wrong. It's not Thomas, it's Tobias. So people can thank Tobias. So sorry about that, Tobias. I didn't mean to get your name wrong. But thank you for actually putting that pull request in, and hopefully it gets approved. Then everybody will have network outputs for Supermodel from now on, and also for, especially on Windows, Linux, and Mac too. Also, since we're talking about Supermodel, I just wanted to clear up some confusion about what gun games work on Supermodel. So, as people have seen, LA Machine Gun works, but only with Hook of the Reaper, because it's using the recoil rumble to solenoid. So, because that's where I put that command in, because for Alien 3. So, if you try MAME Hooker, it's not going to work with LA Machine Gun. It's just going to go one time. So every time you pull the trigger, it's just going to go once. So it's not the best thing. Then the second game is Ocean Hunter. And I found out a lot of people have the Ocean Hunter Japan version, which is Ocean Hunter A. So I put a new default LG file in for Ocean Hunter A. But even with that, I heard multiple people couldn't get it working. So I don't know if I have it set up differently. I mean, it's kind of weird how I have it set up and works, is because the reload and shooting is all from one button. So I think you have like 5 or 6 bullets you see on the screen, and you can shoot, and the recoil works. Then while your ammo is gone, you hit the trigger again, and that does a reload. It doesn't do a recoil on the slide, but it reloads. So then you can just shoot the 5 or 6 bullets again. Then once you're out, you just do it again, and it doesn't do a recoil, but it does a reload. And also, if you hit the reload button, it actually fires too. So I can just sit there hitting the reload button, and it will shake and fire at the same time. So I don't know if it's because I have it set up like that or not. I don't know. Uh, and the last one is Lost World Jurassic Park. So I haven't tested it with the new forked version. It's most likely will be an LED output as the output names are hard coded. So if you look at all three games, they pretty much all have the same outputs just because uh, that's because they hard code the output name. So even though it has an LED output name, it could still be a recoil signal with Lost World. They could have added it in. So I know Russell was going to look into it, but I don't think I ever heard anything back on that. And if I have some extra time, I'll try to check it out. But hopefully that clears up some of the confusion about the what games work on Supermodel. Okay, moving into bugs. There was one bug with deleting the light controllers. It actually might delete a light gun from the list. So this is kind of a weird one. I found out some of it's from cutting and pasting because I cut and pasted some of the, when you delete a light gun, I did that for the light controller. And for the last section, I forgot to change the light gun to light controller. So if you had two or more light controllers, and if you didn't delete the last light controller in the list, then this could happen. It will actually delete a light gun from the list and not delete the light controller, which is not good. So I fixed that now, so that's all working. So it's kind of a bad bug. So if you had some trouble after deleting light controllers, then you try to use a light gun and it wasn't working right, that might be the issue. Then if you reload it and everything started working again, because it doesn't affect the saved data file at all. So then it should be all working fine after that. But that was kind of a weird and bad bug. But I fixed that and this version. Okay, so let's get into the enhancements before getting into the stuff I know people want. So the first one is I put a new setting in to bypass the pop-up warning window when an Ultimark light controller is not found and the light controller is saved in the lightcontroller.hor file. So during startup, Hoka the Reaper starts loading up things and it says, hey, you say you have a Ultimark light controller here, but I can't find it on the USB or through the pack drive through the software. So then it will bring up a pop-up window and remove the light controller save data from the file. But I know one drive maker wanted to bypass this pop-up window because he wanted to put light controller files in, but if a person didn't have a light controller, it's going to bring up a pop-up window. So as you can see now, if you go to edit and settings, you see you have developer, then you have bypass. Can't find light controller pop-up window. So now you can bypass that if you wanted to. But like I said, it's more for drive builders and developers. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. So the next one is kind of a good thing to do because it's has to deal with the bug with the RSC Reaper. So I put a new default LG option in to skip the auto LED command in OpenCom for the RSC Reaper. So the auto LED command is the ZR, and pretty much this is used because how you kind of supposed to do it. You're supposed to send it a ZS, and that kind of tells it, say, hey, you're in serial port force feedback mode, and that changes the 5 LEDs on the side red. But the problem is if ammo is not available, I use the auto LED command to go back to make it act how it does when you're not using force feedback, where you can get the graphics on the sides. Because when you don't have ammo, it's not too much of a use to have that or not. But the problem is when you do that, the reload rumble will happen. So if you click the little button on the side, or if you switched it on the bottom, when you click that, it will do shake, because they'll think it'll do reloading. And if the game says reloading because it's clicking that mouse, like I think it's a right click, it will keep on sending the rumble signal to it. And this happens actually in Time Crisis, because when you push the pedal down and you kind of go down, it reloads. So then it just keeps on sending right clicks to the gun, and it just sits there and rumbles and shakes all the time. It's actually not Hook of the Reaper doing that. It's this bug for the RS3 Reaper. So to get around that, I put a default LG option in where you can skip the auto LED command. So you just put skip underscore auto underscore LED in the options. And I've done that already for the 3 Time Crisis files, for MAME, and also for Ocean Hunter, as I talked about. If you hit the reload button, it will sit there and do a reload. Even when it's doing the recoil, it's because of this same bug. So if people know any more games that have this problem, please let me know. Then I can put the default LG options into the game file. So then it won't happen for when you use the RC Reaper for it later on. So feel like I'm always kind of fixing RS3 Reaper bugs. Kind of these things, always little things always popping up. I know when you go doing force feedback, it doesn't look at the reduced recoil dip switch, and there's all these like little things that get not focused on. But that's kind of the bad thing. But I feel like I'm always fixing them, kind of things. Which is, the best thing to do is just have a new firmware release. But like I said, I don't think retro shooters are going to do that. But the next one is kind of a nice thing. A user made their own USB HID custom light gun, and then they went off to maybe program a thing like Hook of the Reaper, but they found my program actually, and they were really happy because then they found out I had USB HID support with the Alien USB light gun and the AimTrack light gun, and also I put in where you can show any device, show all USB HID devices. So he first did that. He made it as an Alien light gun, and he used show all USB HID devices, and that's how he selected his custom USB HID light gun. Then he changed out the commands for the Alien light gun with his new commands. But the problem with that, he didn't have all the options. He didn't have, because he had like a shaker motor. I think he had to maybe display. And so now he put in all the code to make that work. So now he put in a custom USB option in Hook of the Reaper. So what a person can do is they can fork Hook of the Reaper, then add like a functionality like that into it. Then you do a pull request. So then he sent me the pull request with this nice note saying, it was awesome to find Hook of the Reaper, and I did a lot of work for a lot of the work he didn't have to do, and it was just like a little, small amount to get it the custom USB options in. And also he fixed a bug for adding USB HID light guns too. So now if you come to Hook of the Reaper and you go to add light gun, you'll see now at the bottom custom USB gun. So now if you select that, it automatically gets all the USB HID devices. So then you can select your device and put it in. And like I was talking about, if all this is open up now, so a person can select that. But the problem was the alien USB doesn't have these options, so you couldn't use those. So that's why you wanted to put in a custom USB in there. So you had all those options in there. And also there's a custom USB.HOR file too to go along with it. So now if anybody makes their own custom USB head light gun, they can add it to Hook of the Reaper. So just like wanted to say thank you very much to Paul Pilalio. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I'm horrible with names. So Paul. So thank you very much, Paul, for putting that in and doing a pull request. So I got that into Hook of the Reaper, and now it's into Hook of the Reaper, and so anybody can now use if they make their own custom USB head light gun, which is a very cool thing. So the only last thing is would they choose the TCP server as Sinden has, or I know I was going to do Bluetooth with the Xena's gun, but that hasn't come out yet too. But okay, so let's get into the things which people are waiting for, which is for Hook of the Reaper, I added in support for the lead hook strip into Hook of the Reaper. So now if you come into Hook of the Reaper, here let me pull it up really quick. I think I closed it out. Right, now you go add light controller. So you can see here, you see the Ultimark devices, and now you have type. Now if you select that, you have lead hook strip, so you can select that. And I have 2 plugged in right now, and that's why you see 2 plugged in. And for now, how you do it is you can do up to 4 strips. So if you're only using 1 strip, you just do strip 1 and leave these blank. If you're using 2, then you do strip 1 and strip 2 and leave these 2 blank, and so on. So like what I had is I had 144 LEDs in my strip, right? So I'll put that in. Then I'll put snakes for the pattern. These are the patterns that run when you're not in a game. So if you want patterns to be going off when you're not in the game, you can do that. Then I put in some example stuff. So now you can see I have lead hook example for group files, and I have Ultimark regular, RGB, and RGB fast. So we can do that. So as you can see, I have 2. I have COM 11, 6, and 16. So now I can add that, and now you just see 16. So now I can close that. Then I can come over to here to edit light controller. And over here, this will tell you where it is. So this is light controller 0. But since I don't have any Ultimark devices, it doesn't say. So then I can go back. Then you can change things and delete them if you want to. So I can delete that out of there. So that's how you kind of add it into it. So when with the teaser videos, I showed you kind of the things you can do. The one big one is the display range, which you have multiple color steps and have sequential reload with. Then you can do a flash with, and also has a wait buffer command. So if there's a command running at the time, then the flash command will go into a buffer. Then when the command is not running on that strip, then it will come back out when there's nothing running on that strip. Then you have random flash, which usually you actually put in 2 colors. So usually it's 1 color, but if you want to use a second color, you add it in, then there's a probability. So it goes from like 50% down to like 8%. So every once in a while you can have a different color flash if you want to. Then there's sequential. So I go through all that. I updated I made new group files and game files. info. So now there's an Ultimark and a lead hook version for each of those. And also I've updated the website too. So now if you go to the website and you go to Light Controller, now you see Ultimark, group file info, game file. Then you have lead hook strip, group file info, and I have it in here. So the group file is going to be pretty easy, as the strips are the groups. So the first strip is group 0. The second strip is group 1. Third strip is group 2, and so on. So you don't put any groups into the group files for lead hook. The only thing you really put in is you put colors in and you put color maps in. Since you can have the display range only having one color step, I allow to have color maps you can do one color. So if you look here, this color map has one color, it just has purple. So you can do that for it just because of the display range. It needs a color map, but it only uses the first color. So I allowed only having one color in a color map. But if there's multiple colors in it, it doesn't matter, it just uses the first one if you only have one step out of it. So the group files are a lot easier than the Ultimark, so you don't have to worry about grouping the pins up or anything, or an RGB. It's just color and color maps. Then and also I did updated the commands for it too, for the game file. So now if you go back, you can go to the game file, and I talk about how you add commands in. So now, since there's different commands for different controllers, well, how do you do that? Well, now the way it's done, you go output signal, then you do the controller and groups, then you put the command in, then you put the next controller and groups. As you can see, this is flash ALED strip kind of thing. So this is using the hook, lead hook with it here. Then I have, just like the other ones, I have the flash commands, random flash, the sequence, and the display with all the arguments with it. So it explains how you can do all the commands with it, so which is pretty good. Then 2, if you look at 3.0, like I said, if you go to Light Controller, now I give examples of group files and put information in there. So you have lead hook, Ultimark regular, Ultimark RGB, and Ultimark RGB fast. Then you have the group file lead hook info, then Ultimark group file info. Then if you come over here to light files, I have examples of it. So I have lead hook 1 and 2. Then I have House of the Dead 4 using Ultimark and lead hook together. So if you want to see how more they go together, you can look at that. And also I put the virtual cop 2 that I put in with the background command in it. Then they have the information for the lead hook info for the game files with the Ultimark. So now you should have a lot of information in there, so people should easily know how to create the files. Like I said, the group files are really easy compared to the other stuff. Okay, so then the next thing is I created a repo of lead hook. So now if you go to 6-bolt, right, now there's lead hook strip. And then you can see, come over here to release, And that's where you can get your UFT file, UF2 file to upload to the Pico 2 or Pico 2W. And also, if you read here, I talk about how you hook it up to the strips, the addressable LED strips, and kind of what pins are being used. So you can see here, first strip is GPIO 2, 3, 4, and 5. So since the Pico 2W and the Pico 2 use the same pins, it's easy to see. As you can see, GP is GPIO, so you can see 2, 3, 4, and 5 are right here, which is pins 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that's how you kind of hook it up to. Then you put a 200 to 400 ohm resistor into the line. And I go over that on how to connect it. Then also I go in, do you need a level shifter, and explain why you shouldn't really need a level shifter. You can use a level shifter if you're seeing problems or not. But as an engineer, it's probably better to fix the problem than just covering up the problem with a buffer, as those are more buffers versus level shifters. And then here's just the example of a data sheet, and kind of so you can see why you don't really need a level shifter, because the voltage input high is at 0.7 volts. So if it's 0.7 volts or higher, then it comes in as a 1. So if you put 2 volts in, it's still going to come in as a 1. The problem happens at the lower side. So the voltage input low is 0.3 volts. And the hysteresis happens at 0.35 voltage. So from 0 to 0.3 volts, that's not too much spread. So definitely something can happen there. And that's why probably most likely problems happen with when you use kind of like 30 gauge wire and long wire runs and all that, because you have to use a common ground, and common grounds are not always at 0. Everybody thinks ground's always going to be at 0, but no, it doesn't work that way. Then this kind of shows you how it transfers the data. So if it's transferring the data, if it's a 0, then it's like 30% using with it to get a 0, because 50% is kind of like right here. This should be more out here. This should be more 70% for an high, because it's you're just sending the data, then the clock is recovered. Then if no data is sent, then it stays at a 0. So that's how you know no data is being sent. It's at 0 for a while. Then if you're getting clock high and clock low, you're getting edges, then you know data is being sent. But that's kind of some information on that. And I kind of go through that in all in the README about how to set it all up and connect everything. And also you need USB to the computer, because that's how Hook of the Reaper talks to the microcontroller, through the USB. So that's where you get the lead hook strip release. And kind of what I was just pretty much talking about has all the C code over there. And also I talked about things if you want to change things and how you can recompile it. And I'll have release links for that, and of course Hook of the Reaper. So now you can hook it up and add some things to it and test it out. So it's pretty, as I showed you, it's pretty easy to add the lead hook into Hook of the Reaper. You just say how many LEDs are in that strip, and you can have 4, up to 4. I'll probably increase it, probably next release. But if you find any bugs, please let me know, because usually I have some bugs in the first release, then I kind of catch them on the second release. But that's it. Hopefully now you guys can try it out finally. Thanks. Bye.